Hi, this is a video that's going to go through a handful of questions from Chapter 4. We're going to start with finding the average rate of change. So if you look at either question 1 on this sheet or question 2, we're going to find the average rate of change. Average rate of change always happens over an interval from over x values. So in this first one, when you have the interval from 1 to 2, that's telling you your x values. So again, average rate of change, the formula is taking your f of your second number minus your f of your first divided by your second number minus your first. Again, what that means is this is your y value when you substitute in your y value here. So if I'm going to, notation-wise, I'm going to plug in 2 into my equation. I'm going to subtract the answer when I plug in 1 into my equation, and then I'm going to divide that by 2 minus 1. Again, what this means is you're going to function f up here, and you're plugging 2 into the equation in all of the places that you see x. When you plug 2 into this equation, you will get an answer of 10. When you plug 1 into this equation, you're subtracting that answer, you will get an answer of 5. And you are dividing that by 2 minus 1, which is 2. If you divide that together, you get 10 minus 5, which is 5, divided by 2. This is my average rate of change. For every 2 units to the right, my y units go up by 5. And you could do the same thing for the graph here. You're doing the interval from negative 2 to 0. You see that it's going down. Again, if I use the same equation, it would be f of 0 minus f of negative 2 divided by 0 minus a negative 2. F of 0 is negative 6 in the graph. F of negative 2 in the graph is 4. And again, if I do 0 minus a negative 2, that's a positive 2. So we get a negative 10 divided by a 2, which turns out to be negative 5. The next sections in this chapter that we did were factoring sections. So here again are just 5 examples of factoring. So if you look at question number 1, you notice that you want to look first for a greatest common factor between 4x squared and 49, and I don't see any greatest common factors. So the next thing I want to know is I want to know what parentheses would make those two happen. I noticed that both of these are perfect squares, so I'm going to try a 2x and a 2x to get 4x squared. The only thing I can think of that multiplies to 49 other than 1 and 49 is 7 and 7. And because it's a negative 49, make them opposites, this is considered a difference of perfect squares. If I check my outer terms, that's negative 14. The inner terms is positive 14. It cancels out, and I work. If I move on to question 5, again, I always want to look for a greatest common factor, and I notice in this problem that they are all divisible by 6. So if I divide out a 6, 6x squared divided by 6 is x squared. If I divide 36 by 6, that leaves me with a negative 6x. If I divide negative 42 by 6, I'm left with a 7. I do have to look, because there's an x squared, what I could do next. What I could do next is figure out how to get an x squared, see if this is possible. So an x squared would be an x and an x. Ways to get a 7 are really just 1 and 7, 7 and 1. I need it to be a negative 7. So if I put a negative here and a positive here, if I check my outside terms, that's a positive 1x. Inside terms are a negative 7x, so this would distribute through. I continue doing that for number 6. What multiplies? There are 3 terms, so 3 terms tells me there's going to be 2 quantities multiplied together. They would have to have an x and an x. And then I must think of things that multiply to 44. 44 is a little bit harder, but you'd have 1 and 44. You would have 2 and 22. 44 is not divisible by 3, but you'd have 4 and 11. 4 and 11, if I make it a negative 4 and a negative 11, that would multiply to a positive 44, and then if I check my outside terms, that's negative 11x, negative 4x gets me negative 15. So I do think about these things in my head or write them down. If I move on to number 7, again, I look for that greatest common factor. I don't see one, so I'm going to try again to see what two parentheses multiply to this. Since there's a 5x squared, I'm going to try a 5x and an x. And then I have a -6. Now there's a whole bunch of options for -6. I need the outside and inside terms to be 13. So what I try, maybe I'll try 2 and 3. So maybe I put a 2 here and a 3 here. If I look at my outside terms, that would be 15x. Inside terms would be 2x. A 15 and a 2 would get me to 13 if I made it a -15 and a +2. And you just guess and check along the way to make sure that it works, but you check your outside and your inside terms. In question number 8, it looks slightly different, but I always look for a greatest common factor first. In this one, I don't see any greatest common factors for all 4, but I do notice there's a greatest common factor for the first 2. I'm going to write it over here. The first 2 have a 2x squared in common, leaving me with an x plus a 3. The second 2 have just a negative and a -3 in common. You want to notice the negative as well because you need to make sure that your inner parentheses is the same. If you divide by a -3, that leaves you with an x. If you divide -9 by -3, that leaves you with a +3. Now you notice those are our common terms. And so this is my common factor. And both 2x squared and -3 were multiplied by my common factor. So in sections or day 2 through day 3, we just did lots of factoring. The next unit in our lesson, we talked about how to find sort of x-intercepts, or also we called them zeros. And I'm just going to go through a few of these problems to begin with. But again, it said write a factor for the given 0. Again, the factor would be if I had x minus 4, what makes that equal 0? Oh, if x was 4. Likewise, if I look at number 3, if I had the factor of x plus 3, what makes that equal 0? Oh, if x was -3. So the first problems are just showing you if you had a 0 or an x-intercept, what's the factor that was given? The second ones are then going in the opposite order. What makes this equal 0? If x was -15, this would equal 0. In a problem like number 8, again, the question is asking you, what makes this equal 0? So you'd add your 8, and then you would divide by 3. So 8/3 is the 0, is the number I plug in for x to make that equal 0. Because we were talking about zeros, we were asking questions of like, determine if something's a factor. And we said sometimes it's not factorable, like something that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 terms is very hard to factor. So what we did in these types of problems is we said, okay, what's the 0? What's the x-intercept? This is the x-intercept for this factor. If it's also an x-intercept of this entire equation, then it should make the problem equal 0. So we plugged in our x-intercept, and we just did -1 to the 4th plus 5, -1 cubed. As you plug in -1, you want to know what does this equal? Because it also equals 0. This proves, it says determine if the given quantity is a factor. You can say, yes, x plus 1 is a factor of f of x in this case. Again, because when you plugged it in, it was an x-intercept in both cases. It was an x-intercept of this factor, and it was also an x-intercept of the equation, meaning it equaled 0. And we just practiced a whole bunch of problems where, again, if we found the x-intercept, substitute it into your entire equation. If it equals 0, then in fact it's an x-intercept of this as well, which means yes, it's a factor. Our 5th day was just about solving, and solving just puts the last 3 days all together in one. So I'm just going to look first at, in this case, question number 6. So question number 6, in order to solve, I'm going to factor. I notice all of them have a greatest common factor of an x. It said it equal to 0. I'm going to continue to factor something that multiplies to 12 and adds to -7, double check, still equals 0. And the best part about putting something into factored form is I know there should be three solutions, and one of my solutions is x equals 0. If I plug in 0 to this, it will equal 0. Another one of my solutions is 3. If I plug in 3 to this, it will equal 0. And a third answer is if I plug in 4 to this, it will equal 0. So I can solve my equations by factoring and seeing those pieces. In a problem like number 11 right here, you want to make sure that before you try to solve, you want to set it equal to 0. So I would first subtract 18 from both sides, so you get this. And then again, I would try factoring. There are three terms. When there are three terms, I would look for two parentheses, so I get an x squared and an x squared. I need something for the negative 18. I'm going to try 9 and 2. And if I'm going to make it 7, this one would be half to negative, and this one would be positive. Again, this one's a little bit different. We're trying to figure out what makes each of these equal 0. So I'm saying set this equal to 0. So x squared equals 9. Sorry, keep going. The square root of x is plus or minus 3 because you have to square root both sides. That's two answers. I know there should be a total of 4 solutions. So I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Set x squared plus 2 equal to 0. Subtract 2 from both sides. Sorry that it's going through my work. X will equal plus or minus the square root of negative 2, because again, you square root each of those. So x equals plus or minus the square root of 2i. So I have answers of positive 3, negative 3, the positive 2i, and a negative 2i. And that's what we were doing in this whole chapter, this whole section, is just solving. The last section is we were doing inequalities. And in inequalities, one of the nice ways to do it is to, sorry, I'm changing my color, read your equation. Sometimes your equation is given to you as a graph. Sometimes it's given to you an equation. If you have an equation, you can graph it on your graphing calculator. In this particular question, they want to know when is your graph below 0? It's below 0 in 2 different spots. And so because it's just less than 0, this is the less than sign, you're just writing the interval for when it's less than 0. It's like, when is your company not making profits? The company is not making profits from negative 6 to negative 2, and these will be in parentheses because it's just less than. And they're not making profits from 1 until 5. Sorry, this little thing came up in there. But it's just telling you the 2 places where your graph is less than 0. The opposite of that is, where is my graph greater than or equal to 0? Obviously, there are a few spots where it's greater than or equal to 0. And again, you're just identifying those x-intercepts, so related to your factoring and everything before. Negative 7, now this one gets a bracket. Negative 7 to negative 2 with a bracket because it's equal to a positive 1 to a positive 6 with brackets, and then a positive 9, and forever to the right, we keep making profits, so we're above 0. So when it's equal to, you get brackets. When it's not equal to, everything is parentheses. Infinity is always a parenthesis. So this was just a review of everything that we've covered this chapter, sort of a general sense. Make sure that you look at the review, ask your teacher questions, but this just kind of gives you an example of all the things that we've covered.